At the beauty contest, the young lady was asked, "Describe your perfect date." She said, "That's a tough one, but I'd have to say April 26th, because it's not too hot or not too cold. All you need is a light jacket." So today is April 26th, and the church gives us the Acts of the Apostles, chapter 8. We're working our way through the Acts of the Apostles, and we see that St. Stephen, the first deacon, the proto-martyr, has just been killed for his faith, stoned to death by the mob. And as he was dying, he prayed. He asked God to forgive them, since they know not what they do, not to hold that sin against them. And one of the young men who oversaw the death and martyrdom of St. Stephen was a man named Saul of Tarsus, a young rabbi, a Pharisee, who was violently wanting to persecute the church. He wanted to stamp out Christianity. And it says here that right after the death of Stephen, this emboldened the religious leaders, especially Saul of Tarsus, to bring about a severe persecution of the church in Jerusalem. So now we have a violent persecution, it says, to anyone who claimed to be Christian. And because of this, it says, all were scattered throughout the countryside of Judea and Samaria. So they went in the south of the Judean area around Jerusalem and the outskirts, and even up to Samaria. Remember where the Lord had met the woman of Samaria. Samaria was a mixed religion of Jews and Gentiles. They were not considered, true Israelites. And yet it says all the disciples of Jesus, the Christians, were scattered. The word that St. Luke uses here in Greek is like a sower scattering seed, just like throwing out the seed. But what happens when seed is scattered? It begins to grow. When the seed is planted and dies, in a sense, it brings about new life, and that's what happened. It says the only ones that remained in Jerusalem were the apostles. They would not abandon their place where the Lord told them to stay. It says they buried Stephen and lamented over his death. And it says Saul, meanwhile, was trying to destroy the church. The word in Greek for destroy is what a wild animal in trying to destroy his prey. So the very word indicates how violent Saul was. Saul believed that Christianity was a heretical sect and it had to be crushed, it had to be stamped out. So he was like a wild boar devouring its prey, and he would even go house to house. It says he entered home after home, dragging out men and women. And what would he do? He would ask them, "Do you believe in Jesus as the Messiah?" If they said yes, it says he would imprison them, maybe even worse, maybe even kill them, but certainly he would imprison them. And later on in the Acts of the Apostles, he would tell us more details about what he would try to do to have people renounce their faith. But it says the Christians would not do that. Instead, they would be willing to go to prison. But notice what it says, that those who were scattered went about preaching the word. See, notice how God brings good out of evil. Yes, the persecution of the early church was an evil thing. And yet God brought good out of it, because where the Christians were scattered, just like the seed being scattered, there would be the blossoming and the growth of the church. The church would spread that way. For example, it says Philip went down to the city of Samaria. Samaria is actually north, but he went down because elevation. Jerusalem was a city built on the hill, so when he went down to Samaria, he was going obviously to a lower area, and proclaiming Christ to them. It says the crowds listened to him because Philip was doing signs and working miracles. Notice when Jesus worked miracles, he did that to prove what he said was true. So he gave the same power to the apostles and to the early deacons, that when they would preach, they would also be given the grace to work miracles to prove that what they said was also true. And what were the apostles doing? They were, it says, casting out unclean spirits. They were doing exorcisms, and the church for 2,000 years has done exorcisms. In fact, you can go online today and listen to Father Ripperger or Father Carlos Martins or Father Lambert, and you can listen to their stories of exorcisms. Gabriel Amorth wrote over 12 books on exorcisms. He was the exorcist for the Diocese of Rome for 30 years. And we see that the church continues to do exorcisms. More and more are sharing their stories of exorcisms. And I would recommend the movie Nefarious. That's an excellent Christian movie. Nefarious was produced by the same people that did the movie Unplanned, which was the great pro-life movie, a conversion of Abby Johnson. And so Nefarious is a powerful movie. Try to see it while it's still in the theaters. And it's a story of, again, it's very much like a C.S. Lewis story where you have a man on death row who is possessed by a demon, and the demon speaks, and tells us what is in the mind of Satan. Just like in the Screwtape Letters, C.S. Lewis tells us what's in the mind of Satan, how he's trying to destroy people and to destroy the church. So again, try to see Nefarious if you can, either online or in the movie theater. So the church was doing exorcisms back then. It continues to do exorcisms today. It says they cast out demons from many possessed people, and they cured the paralyzed. The cripples were cured as well. And Jesus predicted this. He said, I will do these works, but you will do even greater things than I did. And remember that in St. Luke's gospel, there is a certain amount of miracles reported, but in the Acts of the Apostles, there's twice as many miracles that the apostles do that St. Luke reports in his gospel of Jesus doing. So he's showing that Jesus gave this overwhelming power of the Holy Spirit to the apostles to work miracles, to cure people, and to cast out demons. It says because of this, there was great joy in the city. They were bringing people to joy and to salvation in Jesus Christ. So that's what we have today, is the persecution and the growth of the church. When the church is persecuted, it grows. When, as the blood of the martyrs is, the seed of the faith.